60% of Americans approve of the job that Joe Biden is doing as vice president, or president-elect rather, not vice president-elect. That's Kamala Harris. And no, I'm not making that up either. That's actually a headline in the Hill. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Donald Trump and California get into a tussle over funding and federal aid over abortion, because you knew that was going to happen by the end of all of this here. Another caravan may be coming, and Biden's immigration plans may be put to the test. And Thomas Massie and Tulsi Gabbard team up to try and end the Patriot Act. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. It was a pretty busy news day yesterday. I'm not going to lie. There's a whole bunch of stuff standing up here on the stack. We're going to get through all of it up here and hopefully see what it is that they want to do about giving you away more money, more of your own money. And still, it's not enough for the Red Roses. They call it a snub. They say it's an insult. They say they want to fire Mitch McConnell out of a cannon or something. I don't know. They tend to be or pretend to be nonviolent, but you know how they are here. But before we get into it, we got to sell up the wares. And before I do that, I want to get you guys' opinion on something. And you guys know I go back and read the live chat every show. So I'll have your opinion off of this by the end of the day here, but I want to look at this and see what you guys think. So Hobby Real a couple days ago tweeted out and asked what the difference was between right libertarians and left libertarians. And I put this tweet up here. I said, right libertarians want to eliminate laws and government so we have significantly less crime, and the police can be eliminated due to obsolescence. Left libertarians think that police should kneel down and be executed by the criminals that they wrong for the crime of wearing the badge. Maybe I'm way off. I thought I was going to get a lot more pushback from that, but I just had one guy come up and say, "You're totally wrong, man." A lot of other people liked it, though. I don't, like I said, maybe I'm way off on this, but that's the way that I see it. Possibly. But let's get into seeing what the markets are doing. And before we do that, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, carrying great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, now at its new time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We also carry the R-Rated Conservative, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, and the Freckles and Brit Show. Come on over, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Help us get this site off the ground, and help us replace our common enemies, the Daily Wire. All right, with that, let's look in at what the stocks are doing. Starting at the Dow, looks like it started up. They struggled to go up and over, but they couldn't quite pull it off. It fell down to below the previous close, but not by very much. 44.77 points, 0.15%. So overall, it was a steady day on the Dow. I'm not going to say it's a good day. I'm not going to say it's a bad day. It's just kind of a flatline day. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. And I could see where a lot of these stocks could start dropping off because it looks like, hey, we're going to lock down forever here. And that's why I said yesterday, we need to sit back and look at the fact, and there may be a legal challenge that pops up. There absolutely may be a legal challenge that pops up that changes this election. But we can't go into the future hoping and praying for it. We do need to look back and prepare for the fact that Joe Biden could be president, and we could have another 4 years of Obama-era policies, putting us up to the fact that we could be out of jobs, or the job market could be flooded, or any other number of things out here. People doing whatever they can to get a buck, and a lot more people working for minimum wage. Get some beans, learn how to can, learn how to grow stuff. You have an opportunity, you know this is coming. And like Tim Pool likes to say, hey, you know what? Well, I just went out and bought some extra cans of beans. So, if everything went bad, then I had to pay beans. But if not, then we had a really cool taco night. So, keep that in mind here. We don't know what's going to happen off this. It looks like the futures are pointing up, though. For Spartan, because he likes to put this up in here, the Bitcoin is at 23,153.5 US dollars as of today. They had another significant jump throughout the last 24 hours because it was just over 20,000 yesterday. So A lot of Bitcoin users are hedging their bets on what the economy is going to do and what happens when that money printer goes burr as well. So keep that in mind. All right, from Investors Business Daily, if they let me read it this time. Dow Jones stocks rise amid jobs data, vaccine stimulus expectations, Accenture, Cerence on breakout watch. From Alan R. Elliott, stock futures racked up firm early gains to Stock futures racked up firm early gains Thursday ahead of a session loaded with expectations. Weekly unemployment data are due out before the market opens. A federal coronavirus stimulus deal is pending, and Moderna's coronavirus vaccine goes before an FDA advisory panel. Bitcoin spiked to record highs, while earnings drove Accenture and Lennar to lead the S&P 500. Small cap Rite Aid spiked 19% after its quarter 3 report, helping to boost Walgreens Boots Alliance to the top of the Dow Jones today. Dow Jones futures traded up 0.5%. S&P 500 futures rose nearly 0.5% above fair value. Nasdaq 100 futures rose 0.4%, with Baidu pulled back a bit, more than 1% at the bottom of the list. Small caps action showed Russell 2000 futures gaining 0.9%, with Rite Aid and Macrogenics each up about 10%. Markets rallied across Asia, and European benchmarks were mostly higher near midday. Frankfurt's DAX led the region with a 0.8% gain. London's FTSE 100 slipped into negative terrain after the European Parliament set a Sunday deadline for a UK-EU Brexit agreement, ahead of the final dissolution of the UK's trade union participation on December 31st. In addition, the Bank of England voted to hold its monetary policy and rate targets unchanged, a widely anticipated outcome. Vaccine maker stocks were mixed ahead of an FDA advisory panel review of Moderna's leading coronavirus vaccine candidate. FDA staff gave the vaccine a positive review in documents released on Monday. An advisory panel recommendation could lead to a fast-track emergency use authorization and rapid rollout of the second U.S. COVID-19 deterrent. Moderna shares slipped 0.8%. Pfizer vaccine partner BioNTech dropped 2.7% in pre-market trade. Stick that needle in your arm, just like Ronnie Van Zant said. The smell of death surrounds you, apparently. So that's what we're seeing up out of the stocks for the day here. We're going to take a slight countervailing preview to the street. Dow Futures test record highs on vaccine rollout stimulus bets. Bitcoin passes 23,000. From Martin Bacardax. With Pfizer, BioNTech being administered in Britain and the US, and Moderna likely to receive emergency use approval from the FDA within days, investors are seeing light at the end of the tunnel of a year-long pandemic that has killed nearly 1.7 million people and decimated the global economy. Citation needed, please. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, in fact, put the vaccine rollout at the forefront of monetary policy yesterday, telling reporters that he expects activity to pick up notably in the middle of next year as herd immunity takes hold. And then Kamala Harris can look over and say, "Ha, we did it, Joe. We beat the coronavirus, okay? Joe, are you still alive? Hey, wake up." His pledge to continue buying $120 billion in bonds each month while keeping interest rates at near 0% for at least the next 3 years added to the market's optimism, as did reports of a potential $900 billion stimulus deal from lawmakers in Washington, and the Friday deadline for funding federal agencies looms. The need for further support, given that stocks are closing in on fresh record highs, was underscored yesterday by a collapse in November retail sales and the likelihood of another 700,000 to 800,000 Americans filing for unemployment benefits last week amid lockdown and stay-at-home orders closed businesses around the country. So, they're sitting on the same point. It looks like Bitcoin buyers know that the US dollar is going to crash because they keep printing the goddamn thing. They're stuffing their futures onto Bitcoin, which is probably not the worst idea. I should probably make myself a crypto wallet myself. But they're shoving their futures onto Bitcoin and hoping that the best comes out of this. They're looking forward to seeing what happens here, but I have no faith. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more growing, both the food and carnivorous varieties throughout the summer, just to make sure, just in case. A little bit more hunting, stock up the freezer a little bit more, just to make sure. Because, you know what, I hate to be caught with my pants down again. I got caught with my pants down once, and I'm still feeling the economic repercussions from it. I would hate to get caught with my pants down again. And even going out and getting my real estate license right now, I'm still doing it, but I'm not going to be jumping ship from my regular job quite as quickly as I'd hoped. Quite as quickly as I thought when I thought that Trump was going to win re-election. Just to prepare, just to make sure, because I've got some tenure in this job now, and they don't want to see me go, so they might start throwing money at me if I do decide to go somewhere. Whereas if I go anywhere else, I'll be at the bottom of the barrel and taking whatever scraps they can throw at me. So, something to watch for, and like I said, grow stuff, hunt, stock up on canned stuff, learn how to can stuff, learn a couple trades, just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. All right, let's move into the news, starting with The Hill. Poll, 60% approve of Biden's job as president-elect. Yes, you are reading that right. 60% approve of Biden's job as president-elect. 6 in 10 voters approve of the job Joe Biden is doing as president-elect. A new Hill-Harris X poll finds there is no job of the president-elect. I hate to tell you this. Our Constitution doesn't lay out any provision. There's no office of the president-elect. That was a psyop that they put right out in front of you to tell you, hey, just come back and watch this. There is no office of the president-elect. I don't know how to tell people this. The job that Joe Biden would be doing as president-elect is the same thing he did on the campaign trail. He sits in his fucking rocking chair with his little blankie on his lap. Every once in a while you hear him mutter, "Come on, man!" And then Dr. Jill Biden walks in and says, No, Joe, just no, stay away from the webcam, okay? No, let me get you some nice hot soup. Don't spill it in your lap. That's the job of the president-elect, especially when he's fucking ancient like that. There is no office of the president-elect, and I don't have the words for this. I don't have the words for this. 60% of registered voters in the December 10th to 14th survey said they approve of Biden's job as president-elect. By contrast, 40% of respondents disapprove. Is that how math works? If 60% approve, then 40% disapprove. It's amazing. It's simple subtraction. The poll found Biden garnering majority support across demographics except among Republican voters. Voters 65 years old and older, and respondents who live in rural areas. 62% of men approve of Biden as president-elect, while 58% of women said the same. 72% of 18 to 34-year-olds and 65% of 35 to 49-year-olds support Biden. Yeah, I'm sure that 72% of 18 to 34-year-olds approve because they have no idea how the government works. Because shortly after I went through middle school, they stopped teaching civics in middle and high school. So they actually believe there's an office of the president-elect because that's what CNN told them. They stood him up at the podium in front of a big sign that says, Office of the President-elect. However, 51% of voters 65 and older disapprove of Biden as president-elect. The poll found 87% of black voters, 72% of Hispanic voters, and 51% of white voters approve of Biden. 93% of Democrat respondents support Biden, along with 60% of independents. By contrast, 73% of Republicans disapprove of the former vice president as president-elect. He's been president-elect for 2 days. And there's still no provision of anything that he should be doing right now. This is what Biden does in the office of the president-elect. Are you ready? Hey, Jill, can I have some more hot cocoa? It's cold up here in Delaware. Hey, Hunter, you remember that time that I was at the pool when I learned about them roaches? And them kids were jumping up in my laps and rubbing the hair down on my legs? That is the job of the president-elect right now. And yet this poll exists. This is what the media does to your mind, people. All right. I thought you guys would enjoy that. I can't believe that this is a thing. I take that back because I've been watching the mainstream media for 3 years. I can believe that this is a thing. I can't with this. I can't with this. If it wasn't for the fact that I knew that this man was going to have the nuclear football, most likely on January 20th, I would say this is the stupidest thing in the world. But that fact that I just said, that's the stupidest thing in the world. Am I way off base here? All right, let's keep going. From CNBC. Second stimulus checks could be less than $1,200 per person. Here's what we know. From Lori Konish. It's looking more likely that direct payments to Americans will be included in the new coronavirus aid Congress aims to pass before lawmakers head home for the holidays. Those stimulus checks could be around $600 to $700 per individual. Senator John Thune told reporters on Wednesday that's just about half the $1,200 payments authorized by the CARES Act in the spring. A $600 reduced stimulus payment was included in a White House plan last week, though President Donald Trump has since called for sending bigger checks. Now, Capitol Hill lawmakers are looking to move an approximately $900 billion, with a B, legislative package towards the finish line. There's a recognition that unless D.C. provides some more aid now, some of the economic impact to individuals and to families could be more permanent, and some of the impact on small businesses would be absolutely permanent, said Ed Mills, Washington policy analyst at Raymond James. Notably, a $908 billion package that was unveiled earlier this week did not include stimulus checks. In order to add in those payments but stay at a similar total price tag, the help that's included would have to be shifted. If the stimulus checks are cut in half to about $600 per individual, their total cost would come down to roughly $150 billion from $300 billion. Excluding state and local aid would save about $160 billion. Reports also suggested that lawmakers could reduce unemployment assistance in order to help pay for more direct payments, which would amount to more people getting pissed off when they get called back to go to work. Political leaders in Washington have argued for months over how to put together the next aid package. This time, there is more urgency that could lead to a deal, Mills said. Long-term unemployed workers and small businesses are desperate for more aid, he said. Meanwhile, COVID-19 is surging, and there's need for funding to distribute the vaccine. The CARES Act provides a bridge, Mills said. The bridge has ended, but the pandemic has not. We need to complete the last leg of the bridge to get a post-vaccine world. It remains to be seen whether there will be a push to increase the second stimulus checks to the $1,200 per individual that were sent out in the spring. Senator Bernie Sanders has taken a firm stance on the need for more $1,200 payments. Last week, he introduced an amendment with Senator Josh Hawley with the hopes of making sure those payments are definitely included in the upcoming legislation. So, with all of that in mind, they're going to throw more of your money back at you. They're going to balloon the shit out of the national debt once again. That is $908 billion with a B. It's very possible with this new omnibus that they put out there, with money that they didn't have to put into the omnibus, that this could push us over $30 trillion in debt. I just want you to know that. $30 trillion could be the number that we're looking down by the end of this. 30 trillion with a T. And that is the reason that I took the check that I got before, and I cut that up into 9 pieces, and I wrapped it up in a strongly worded letter. That boiled down to me saying, you can't send me this check because you don't have the money to cover the money that's in this check. How dare you steal this from my children? And mailed it right back to the fucking Treasury. Because they don't have the money to cover what's in that check. And I mailed that motherfucker right back to them. And if they try to do this once again, I'm going to take that check. That's for They're thinking $600. I'm going to cut that fucker up. I'm going to mail it back to them with another strongly worded letter because they don't have the money to cover that either. My tax accountant hates me, by the way. So it's looking like that's what's going to be coming up out of this. That's from CNBC. Politico has got some outrage on this, of course. It is madness. Governors rage over stimulus snub. From Stephanie Murray and Kelly Mestrick. America's governors seethed on Wednesday over news that a much-anticipated federal stimulus package will not include bailout for local governments and accused Washington of abandoning states and cities. Leaders across the country pleaded with Congress for months to reach a deal that would deliver hundreds of billions of dollars to plug budget holes and shore up everything from schools to emergency services. But the $900 billion emerging deals, expected to include direct checks to Americans and a weekly unemployment boost of $300 through March, will not provide the state and local aid that was requested. It's almost as if, and hear me out on this, you shouldn't have shut down your economies, so those of you who have sales taxes would still be raking in that sales tax money. It's almost as if shutting down your economies had negative effects on your government. Weird how that works. The stimulus agreement comes just as CARES Act funding is drying up and as states are taking on two logistical nightmares, weathering a winter surge of COVID-19 cases and distributing COVID-19 vaccines. New York Governor Andy Cuomo, who claims he's facing a $15 billion budget gap, slammed the news as hyperpolitical parochialism that will bankrupt his state and worsen the burden of responding to the pandemic. Well, maybe you shouldn't have gone out to those big dinners and begged your big taxpayers with cash to have them come back. You did this to yourself, Andy. I hate to tell you this, but you did this to yourself. This is a major problem. It's also a major disgrace. We've been talking about this for months, since before the election. And then after the election, people were supposed to put the politics aside and actually do the job. Apparently that hasn't happened. Cuomo, a Democrat and the chairman of the National Governors Association, said Wednesday at a news conference in Albany. I need hospitals and nurses and the National Guard to do this unprecedented operation, he added. Now is when you want to bankrupt New York? It's madness. Madness. And yet, you're putting a book out bragging about how great you did with the state of New York under COVID. I remember that. Federal lawmakers have been seeking $500 billion for aid in states and cities earlier this year, but backed off as they sought to reach a deal on a financial rescue package by the end of the year. More recently, a bipartisan group of negotiators drafted language providing $160 billion in state and local aid and asked House Speaker Nancy Pelosi initially supported, but that was too spiked as she moved closer to an agreement with the White House and the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Democrats and Republicans are now pinning their hopes on another round of financial aid that provides direct stimulus payments to the Americans, and Democrats are hoping for a broader deal once President-elect Biden is in the White House. And 60% of people approve of him being the president-elect. In the meantime, if state and local governments, which are obligated to balance their budgets, face a financial squeeze as the pandemic continues, they could be forced to impose severe spending cuts that could leave millions of people out of work. But, in spite of some of the draconian warnings from Cuomo and others, the financial picture in some states has been less dire than predicted earlier this year. Some states have more cash than they need, and some Republicans opposed to delivering financial assistance to the states have pointed to those surpluses. That's partially due to reliable revenue streams like property taxes. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said at a press briefing on Wednesday, lost income was supplemented by the CARES Act, which was in turn shielded sales taxes from taking a major hit, Powell added. The concerns that we had at the very beginning of really serious, deep shortfalls and massive budget cuts on the part of the state and local governments has not yet occurred. What we're seeing is it's different from state to state, and some states are having significant difficulties, others not so much, Powell said. Still, the pain is real. Since the start of the pandemic, state and local governments have shed 1.3 million jobs. A very large number, Powell said. While many of those people work in schools and are therefore expected to return to work as the virus comes under control, the financial loss is great. Gee, It's almost as if we shouldn't have shut the economy down. And I am, right from the beginning, I'm very sympathetic to the idea of 15 days to slow the spread. I knew it was going to hurt, but after the raging economy that we had for 3 years under President Trump, enough people had 2 weeks of savings banked up in their back pockets. And enough people's parents had enough in savings that, the people that didn't have 2 weeks in their savings could have at least eaten. Probably not eaten well, probably not enjoyed the standard of living that they're used to, but they probably could have eaten for 2 weeks if their parents helped them out. We could have pulled through this on 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And we didn't know what was coming either. That was the thing to keep in mind. We didn't know that this was going to be a 99% survival rate, 99+% survival rate off of this. We legitimately looked at 3 to 5% of the world's population being reduced, like it was under the Spanish flu. We were looking at and anticipating numbers like that back in February and March. But we didn't get that. We didn't get anywhere close to that. So at this point, why are we still shut down? But that's your stimulus news for the day. Let's keep moving here. Ron Johnson, my senator, is in the news this week. Senator Ron Johnson, you lied repeatedly in the press that I was spreading Russian disinformation. I told you to stop. Senator Gary Peters. This is not about airing your grievances. I don't know what rabbit hole you're running down. So let's have a listen to that. Let me turn your ears on and let's go.
Provide comfort that we have that paper backup. But I just have to talk about Russian disinformation because the people peddling it are not on my side of the aisle. Senior Democrat leaders, including Ranking Member Peters, were involved in a process of creating a false intelligence product that was supposedly classified. They leaked to the media that accused Senator Grassley, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and myself of accepting and disseminating Russian disinformation from Andrei Derkach. I'd never heard of the person until they brought it up. Senator Peters introduced that false information, Russian disinformation, into our investigation record.
Hey, that didn't look like 6 feet.
I'd never heard of the person until they brought it up. Senator Peters introduced that.
That doesn't look very socially distanced, you guys. Come on, social distancing.
That false information, Russian disinformation, into our investigation record. 50 people associated with the intelligence community after our Hunter Biden investigation and the revelations of the Hunter Biden computer said, "Oh, this is Russian disinformation." Now we find out, no, it's a real investigation by the Justice Department. So it's just galling, and I just have to point out that the purveyors of Russian disinformation, Hillary Clinton's campaign, the DNC, the Steele dossier, the Ranking Member Peters accusing Senator Grassley and I of disseminating Russian disinformation, that's where the disinformation is coming. That's where the false information, the lies, the false allegations. I can't sit by here and listen to this and say that this is not disinformation, this hearing today. This is getting information we have to take a look at to restore confidence in our election integrity.
And he's absolutely right on that. And I want to see the information. I want to show me the documents, as Alex Jones says, before he tears his shirt off and rants about the globalists and the chemicals in the water. But I want to see the documents. I want to see what's going on with this so that we can look forward into this and get legislation into the states and get it corrected. But Politico, of course, had something to say on this, so let's see what they had to say. Ron Johnson gambles his political future on Trump. From Andrew Desiderio. Ron Johnson is embracing President Donald Trump as tightly as possible as he decides whether to run for re-election to a must-win Senate seat for Republicans. Johnson, a steadfast Trump ally who has endeared himself to the president with his various investigative pursuits, is defending his approach even as he faces a possible re-election campaign in a state that President-elect Joe Biden won in November. Citation needed, please. And Democrats are taking notice. The Wisconsin Republican, who says he's not yet decided whether to seek a third term in 2022. Okay, we got to back this up here. Ron Johnson said on Sean Hannity's radio show after he won in 2016 and officially came out and said he wasn't seeking a third term. As much as I don't want that seat to go to a Democrat, if he seeks a third term, I will consider him a liar and I will not vote for him. I will not vote for him for a third term. And he's been a good senator. But he told the American people that he was for term limits. And he was going to lead by example. And he was only going to do 2 terms in the Senate. So if he's decided now that he needs to change his mind and lie to us, he's done in my eyes. And pay attention to that kind of shit when people say that too, because he is a term limits hawk. Or he was. Now that he's got a taste of the Beltway water, I'm sure that now he wants to go back. I want to stay in the Senate forever. Anyway, going back to this. Has used this perch as chairman of the Senate's chief oversight body to investigate Trump's political foes from Hunter Biden to Hillary Clinton and the slew of Obama administration officials who launched the Russia probe, and is set to hold a hearing on Wednesday on alleged irregularities in the election, even as he recognizes Biden as president-elect. And, as Shapiro, in his nasally whiny voice, always points out, this is Republicans' pounce right here. It doesn't matter what's coming up out of the investigation. It doesn't matter that the laptop showed Hunter Biden getting a foot job while smoking a fucking crack pipe, and emails upon emails upon emails of incriminating evidence that goes against Joe Biden and shows that he was doing pay-to-play and flying Hunter Biden out in Air Force 2 to go to China and garner all these deals for foreign influence. It doesn't matter what's in there. The scandal here is the fact that Republicans, like Ron Johnson, are investigating it. I don't feel bad about what I've done. I think I'm being vindicated right now, Johnson said in an interview this week, referring to his myriad of investigations. It's a record I'm proud of. Time will prove me right. It will vindicate what I've tried to do here. Here's the thing. We have the Patriot Act. They are spying on your phone, taking bulk collected data from all American citizens. Now, yes, they need to get a warrant to go back and review it, but they are taking all kinds of data from your smartphone, from your tablet, from my webcam. They've probably seen how many times I've beat off sitting in this chair. They're collecting all of that bulk data all the time. They're investigating you almost constantly. And yet now they're pissed when people want to go back and investigate them. If they've got nothing to hide, just like they say to us, if they've got nothing to hide, let them investigate each other into the ground, if that's what I have to say here. And then, when nothing happens out of it, which, I mean, they're deep entrenched swamp creatures at this point, they can come back and say, ha ha, you investigated me and nothing happened. Ah, ha, 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 ha. But if there's enough there that they can get a warrant and a subpoena, then I want to see what's there. And Johnson's used to going it alone, by the way. In 2016, the national GOP apparatus all but abandoned him, believing that he would lose his bid for a second term against Democrat Russ Feingold. Yeah, they completely underestimated how much of a fuck-up Russ Feingold is, by the way. That dude shouldn't be anywhere near politics anymore at this point. And this is coming from a little bit of a local outlook, so thanks for bearing with me on this conversation. But yes, at this point, we don't know if Johnson's going to run for a third term, and Republicans pounce. All right, let's keep going. From KTLA 5 out of Los Angeles. It's 54 degrees in Los Angeles, by the way. They must be freezing. I'll have to reach out to Britt afterwards and see if she's freezing. Trump admin cuts $200 million from healthcare funds to California over abortions. This is coming to KTLA5 from the Associated Press, no author given. The Trump administration said Wednesday it was cutting $200 million in federal health care funding to California because the state requires insurance providers to cover abortions. You idiot. I'm not in favor of abortions. But as much as you touted federalism throughout your presidency, this was not the way to do this. This was not the way to get California to come up by your whims. You idiot. And you just made it 10 times harder for anybody other than a Democrat to win the presidency ever again. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said it will withhold the funding from Medicaid in the new fiscal quarter, starting in January, and if the state does not come into compliance, the department will cut an additional $200 million per fiscal quarter. The administration warned California earlier this year that it could lose federal funding over a 2014 regulation mandating that employers and private insurers plans pay for abortions. The Department of Health and Human Services determined that the state was violating the federal anti-discrimination law, known as the Weldon Amendment, that protects insurers from being forced to provide abortion coverage, the department said in a statement. HHS Secretary Alex Azar said in the statement that California had violated the federal conscience laws and refused to take corrective action. So we're now taking action to hold them to account, he said. You know what would make this really, really easy? If there was no more federal aid. If this wasn't some states subsidizing others, because that's what federal aid is at this point. Just cut off the federal aid, let the states fend for themselves, and while you're at it, get rid of the federal income tax and let the states pay the taxes of the government and assess the taxes from their people the way that it was constitutionally. But yeah, this is, and I mean, you look at some of this. This isn't the first time the federal government has done this. As it's been pointed out to me by numerous other content creators that I pay attention to, there's no federal drinking age. But it's not a coincidence that the drinking age is 21 everywhere in the country. Because the federal government came up, and this is the exact same thing that they're doing here. The federal government came up and said, we want the federal drinking age to be 21. But by the Constitution, we can't do that. So, if you don't raise your drinking age to 21, they did this, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s, across the board. If you don't raise your drinking age to 21, you're not getting any highway funding anymore. And you will not get any more highway funding until you raise your drinking age to 21. So basically, it's a workaround to the 10th Amendment. If California wants to drive their business into the ground by forcing their insurance providers to provide abortion coverage, that's between them and their taxpayers. That is not a DC thing. But who gives a fuck about the 10th Amendment anymore anyway? All right, let's keep going. From Fox News, DNI declassifies Brennan notes CIA memo on Hillary Clinton stirring up scandal between Trump and Russia, from Brooke Singman. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe on Tuesday declassified documents that revealed former CIA Director John Brennan briefed former President Obama on Hillary's purported plan to tie then-candidate Donald Trump to Russia as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server ahead of the 2016 presidential election, Fox News has learned. Ratcliffe declassified Brennan's handwritten notes, which were taken after he briefed Obama on the intelligence that CIA received, and a CIA memo, which revealed that officials referred the matter to the FBI for potential investigative action. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence transmitted the declassified documents to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees on Tuesday afternoon. Today, at the direction of President Trump, I declassified additional documents relevant to ongoing congressional oversight and investigative activities, Ratcliffe said in a statement to Fox News on Tuesday. Okay, this is all good. Now fucking do something about it. All this is going to do right now is this is going to get a bunch of retweets from MAGA Twitter. We're going to see the documents A bunch of content creators are going to do like this. They're going to get on the camera. They're going to talk about it. CNN's going to ignore it. And once again, nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing is going to come out of this. Hillary Clinton's not going to get frog-marched. Obama is not going to get touched. Joe Biden's going to get sworn in, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. And if they try to impeach him, they're going, why would you go and try to impeach this poor old man? Why would you do that? If you're going to release these things, I want to see some results to go with it. You've investigated. You revealed the crime. Now do something about it. A source familiar with the documents explained that Brennan's handwritten notes were taken after briefing Obama on the matter. We're getting additional insight into Russian activities from redacted. Brennan notes read, cite, summarizing alleged approval by Hillary Clinton from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security service. Brennan's notes read. The notes state on the 28th of July in the margin, Brennan writes POTUS. But that section of the notes is redacted. Any evidence of collaboration between Trump campaign and Russia, the notes read. The remainder of the notes are redacted, except in the margins, which reads JC, Dennis, and Susan. The notes didn't spell out the full names, but JC could be referring to then FBI Director James Comey. Susan could be Susan Rice. And Dennis could be Dennis DeYoung. Come back, Sticks. No, I'm actually talking about Dennis McDonough. So, and once again, I mean, nothing's going to come out of this. Let's be realistic about this. I'd like to see some stuff come out of this because there are definitely some things going on that I don't think elected officials should be doing. Whether or not it's criminal, I would refer to an attorney, but we should be doing something about this, but they don't go after former presidents. Biden's not going to go after President Trump either. Now, the Southern District of New York might, but Biden's not going to do it. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Hunter Biden was due significant pay from China firm starting in 2019, requested $10 million in 2017, reports. Excuse me. Multiple new emails, allegedly from Hunter Biden, son of Joe Biden, reveal financial ties to firms inside of communist China. The Chi-Coms! The alleged emails have surfaced after it was revealed last week that Hunter Biden is under federal and criminal investigation over his business dealings, particularly in China. Hunter Biden was informed in 2018 by one of his business partners that he would start to receive significant payments the following year from a firm in China that was co-owned by the Bank of China, which is owned by the Communist Chinese government. This is a lengthy quote from the Daily Caller. Let me just see if there's anything. So it looks like there's some numbers in here. Revelations conflict with an October 2019 statement issued from Hunter Biden's lawyer, George Messaris, that Biden had not received any return on his investment in BHR, nor had there been any distributions to the firm's shareholders since he obtained his 10% equity stake 2 years prior through his company, Skeneedles LLC. The emails, which were located on a copy of Hunter Biden's alleged laptop, show that he took a $150,000 capital loan with one of BHR's China-based partners in July 2017 to help fund his $420,000 investment into the firm that year. When the loan came due in December 2018, Schwerin advised Hunter Biden to extend the loan for another year so he could pay it back with future distributions. Since BHR will be making distributions in 2019 far exceeding $150,000, it is a no-brainer to extend the loan, Schwerin wrote to Hunter Biden and Messaris in a December 20th, 2018 email. Of course, if we can execute the agreement as proposed, 100% of those BHR distributions would go to you. The news follows last week's bombshell revelation from Hunter Biden when he's confirmed that he is under federal criminal investigation. While Biden suggested that the investigation only involved his taxes, CNN reported that authorities were investigating multiple financial issues, including whether Hunter Biden violated tax and money laundering laws in business dealings with foreign countries, principally in China. And that's another one that's probably not going to go anywhere because as soon as Joe gets sworn in, he can come out and say, hey man, yeah, no, "You there, you're investigating my son. Well, if you don't stop investigating, you're not going to get the money. You're fired." Just like he did with the Ukraine, by the way, that everybody seemed to have forgotten about in the wake of the commie fucking coup, by the way. More and more of this looks like something. I don't want to get tinfoily on this, but this really seems like a big conspiracy off of here. To get Joe up into the presidency so he can't be criminally investigated and so he can die in office, taking his secrets to the grave with him. Because I don't think this stops at Joe and Hunter. I really don't. Especially, and this was the big thing with the fact that everybody dropped out of the race. 17 candidates dropped out of the race. 15 candidates dropped out of the race at the same day, so that all the support would coalesce behind Biden, knocking Sanders out of the race. And now Pete Buttigieg is going to get a cabinet position and a cushy job that could lead him to more politics. And you're not expecting my tinfoil sensors to go off on this. I'm not saying that something's happening there, but every red light in the tinfoil sensors is beeping and flashing. But that's what we see from that. All right, from CNN. Trump sees special counsel investigations of Hunter Biden and election claims as payback for Russia probe. Republicans pounce once again, from Kevin Liptak, Caitlin Collins, and Evan Perez. President Trump is pushing extensively for the appointment of special counsels to separately investigate his baseless allegations of voter fraud and allegations surrounding Hunter Biden, the son of President-elect, according to people familiar with the matter. Trump has raised the idea in meetings with advisors and has gone as far as asking for names of potential appointees to the special counsel positions, according to one of the people briefed on Trump's conversations. The issue of a special counsel appears poised to become the major issue in the final days of Trump's presidency when he works to finalize his long-sought priorities, hamstring the incoming administration, and exact political revenge on those he believes wronged him during his tenure. Never mind the fact that Hunter Biden is actually under criminal investigation for money laundering, and Joe Biden's going to be in a position to fire even a special prosecutor. Never mind all that. It's just, he's taking revenge for the Russia investigation. Trump remains deeply aggrieved at the special counsel investigations led by Robert Mueller into ties between his campaign and Russia. And yet, he let them go on. Some of Trump's aides have signaled to allies the president is intent on following through with the moves, though it remains unclear how or when Trump might press the issue at the Justice Department, which will undergo a change in leadership next week when AG Barr resigns. Justice Department rules say special counsel must be named by the Attorney General, though Trump has quizzed his team whether he could name one himself, according to one person familiar with the matter. Republicans pounce. And now suddenly, and this is the thing too, now suddenly, of course, a special counsel is it's an evil abuse of power. When for 3 years, when Bobby Mueller was running around there, looking into every single financial transaction, every single building Trump has ever been in his life, and every person who's ever been within 6 degrees of separation from President Trump was grilled mercilessly by Bobby Mueller. It was so stunning and brave. We're going to get justice off of this. And now, a special counsel is nothing. Salty tears. He's doing this on his way out because he wants to take revenge for the Russia probe. Ha 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 ha! Flip the parties. That's all that I have to say about this. Flip the parties and see if you still feel the same way. All right, from NBC News. It's a bit of a bizarre story, but nevertheless, after Trump's toilet rant, efficiency standards rolled back on showers, laundry machines. And of course, they had to do the hair blowing in the wind because it's NB fucking C. from Ellen Smith. In one of its closing acts, the Trump administration this week finalized 2 new rules rolling back water efficiency standards on shower heads and laundry machines. It's the latest move in line with the president's year-long crusade against what he deems as insufficient water pressure in household appliances and bathroom fixtures. The new showerhead rule, which the Energy Department announced on Tuesday, allows for each showerhead fixture to reach the 2.5 gallon per minute maximum water flow rate mandated by Congress, which set those standards nearly 30 years ago. I have a question for you. Why is Congress mandating what kind of showerhead you can use? Explain that to me. It's just like the fucking trans bathroom thing. When Congress and the government have grown so big that they can tell you what water fixtures you can use, what electrical outlets you can use, and what bathroom you can use, the government is just too goddamn big. And I don't care that this goes back 30 years. That is too much power in the federal government. In its second rule, the department also created new product classes for washers and dryers with shorter cycle times that followed the agency's October announcement of a new rule allowing for a new class of dishwashers with shorter cycle times and different efficiency standards. Okay. People generally want to be efficient for a couple reasons. First and foremost, you pay for the amount of water that goes through your shower head, unless you're renting like I am, in which the property owner pays for that. And it would be in the property owner's best interest to have the limited amount, because that's less on their water and sewer bill. But even if you're a homeowner, it is on you, and it is absolutely beneficial to you to go out and get the most efficient thing possible. And the free market will create these efficient items, because people are going to want them. They will advertise, save $60 a year on your water bill by using this shower head, or whatever ridiculous. I've actually never paid a water bill, so I have no idea, but whatever ridiculous amount. They'll advertise that right on the packaging, just like they do with everything that's marked as Energy Star. This will save you X amount on your electric bill if you use this. And people will generally look at that. I mean, money talks. Why is Congress getting involved in this? So, the shower heads, they're not mandated anymore. I bet you people still buy the ones that are low flow. People don't like spending money. And the rich people can just pay off the inspectors to make sure that they still get to use the stuff that's energy wasteful if they really want to. If they really want to throw money at their municipality, they can still go out and buy the stuff that's energy wasteful. Because, wait, let's keep going. We still got a bunch to get to. And my browser decided it's not going to react. Oh man, I need the Jeopardy sounder for when this does this. Remember, a PayPal link is in the description below. Toss me a couple bucks for the new computer fund. From Fox Business. Biden's immigration plans to be put to the test with recent surge in border crossings. From Sumner Park. Hundreds of Honduran nationals are heading to the southern U.S. border in an organized caravan seeking refuge, signaling what could be one of President-elect Joe Biden's first major challenges from office. The migration comes in the wake of the damage from 2 major hurricanes that struck Latin America last month, as well as economic downturn from the pandemic. The movement is one of the first efforts to penetrate the border as the Biden administration has pledged to undo some of Trump's security measures, officials have warned. Many immigration hardliners are suggesting it could be because of a Biden administration which is going to take over and be much more lenient on immigration, Fox Business's Grady Trimble told Varney & Company. Just last month, nearly 70,000 illegal border crossings were recorded at the southwest border, up just 64% from last November. Even though the 46th Commander-in-Chief will reverse Trump's more aggressive stances on immigration, he has yet to lay out plans for dealing with tens of thousands of migrants that have been held at bay. Really? You don't know what he's going to do with them? I know what he's going to do with them. My audience knows what he's going to do with them. To quote a great man in aviators, bacteria on fucking Mars with a long enough telescope, know what he's going to do with them. They're going to come in. He's going to promise them the world and a path to citizenship. And they're going to go to work for all of his big business buddies out there for pennies on the dollar and never get a path to citizenship. It's not that hard. I know what's happening. I know it's going to happen because Democrats love slave labor and they love an underclass. All right, let's keep going. From The Hill, Biden considering Bob Iger, Jeffrey Katzenberg as ambassadors, report. Yes, that's Bob Iger, the Disney guy. From John Bowden. Film producer Jeffrey Katzenberg and Disney executive chairman Bob Iger are reportedly both under consideration for ambassadorships in President-elect Joe Biden's administration, according to The Hollywood Reporter. A report published on the website Wednesday said the Iger is being considered to be Biden's ambassador to China. Jesus Christ, they're going to put Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, to an ambassadorship for China. What could go wrong there? And yet he's going to get his big rich buddies to come in here and do things that are going to help their business bottom line. And nobody sees a problem with this. That's the biggest issue that I have, is nobody sees a problem with this. Or possibly the UK, major roles that would make him one of the most important members of Biden's diplomatic team, with both countries currently involved in trade negotiations with the US. Katzenberg, who chaired Disney's studio arm from 1984 to 1994, is also in the running for an ambassadorship, according to the reporter, though it was not specified for which positions he was being considered. Biden transition team officials cautioned against the report, calling any discussions of such ambassadorships premature in an emailed statement. Both men supported Biden's campaign during the 2020 election and donated to the Biden Victory Fund, a joint fundraising effort between the campaign, the DNC, and state parties. Laundered money, essentially. Iger indicated as recently as earlier this month that he would accept a position in Biden's administration were it to be offered. He previously clashed publicly with President Trump and departed Trump's Presidential Advisory Council after the U.S. exited the Paris Climate Agreement. Giving back in some fashion, serving our country in some fashion, is certainly something that I would consider seriously, Iger said, while he was counting the money that he could potentially make from expanding Disney into China, during an interview with the Carlyle Group's David Rubenstein for Bloomberg TV. I believe that would be Ron Helton's favorite network, Bloomberg TV, because he loves Bloomberg. Yes, Iger as an ambassador. But don't worry. We're getting rid of the corruption in the White House. All right. We're going to talk about SolarWind because it was pointed out to me, and those of you on my Discord server will note that I notated this in the Discord server so we could talk about this, but nobody's talking about this. From GeekWire, Microsoft unleashes Death Star on SolarWind's hackers in extraordinary response to breach. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that Bill Gates was all over himself to stop the Russians from looking into government stuff. From Christopher Budd. This week, Microsoft took a series of dramatic steps against recent SolarWinds supply chain attacks. In the size, speed, and scope of its actions, Microsoft has reminded the world that it can still muster firepower like no one else as a nearly overwhelming force for good. Through 4 steps over 4 days, Microsoft flexed the muscle of its legal team and the control of the Windows operating system to nearly obliterate the actions of some of the most sophisticated offensive hackers out there. In this case, the adversary is believed to be APT-29, aka Cozy Bear, the group many believe to be associated with Russian intelligence and best known for carrying out the 2016 hack against the Democratic National Committee. Wouldn't it be funny if Cozy Bear was just a bunch of Owen Benjamin supporters, who some of which I know are watching this show, and they were the ones that did this? While details are continuing to emerge, the SolarWinds supply chain attack is already the most significant attack in recent memory. According to SolarWinds, Microsoft FireEye, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the attackers compromised a server to build updates for the SolarWinds Orion platform, a product used for IT infrastructure management, the attackers used this compromised build server to insert backdoor malware into the product, called Solorigate by Microsoft or Sunburst by FireEye. Don't you put your malware in my backdoor. So yes, apparently Microsoft is going to be the king of the day. They're going to save the world from the people who are hacking SolarWinds. I don't fucking believe a word of it. I think it's a bunch of shit. And possibly something, especially with Microsoft involved. I mean, there go the tinfoil sensors once again. And a guy who talks about depopulation and wants you to get your vaccine. Speaking of which, I've got another one here from CNN on the same topic. Why the US government hack is literally keeping security experts awake at night. Because somebody got into the US government and possibly saw all the stuff that they're trying to keep away from the American people. It's keeping them awake, it's keeping them awake at night because somebody might learn the fucking truth. From Brian Fung. The U.S. government is reeling from multiple data breaches at top federal agencies, the result of a worldwide hacking campaign with possible ties to Russia. Investigators are still trying to figure out how much of the government may have been affected and how badly it may have been compromised. But what little we know has cybersecurity experts extremely worried, with some describing the attack as a literal wake-up call. I woke up in the middle of the night last night just sick to my stomach, said Teresa Payton, who served as the White House Chief Information Officer under W. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at a 9, and it's not because of what I know, it's because of what we still don't know. On Sunday evening, the Commerce Department acknowledged it had been hit with a data breach after Reuters first reported that sophisticated hackers compromised the agency through a third-party software vendor known as SolarWinds. While SolarWinds is not a household name, it works with many businesses and organizations that are. Since then, more details have emerged, suggesting a much wider pattern of compromise. As many as 18,000 SolarWinds customers out of a total of 300,000 have been running software containing the vulnerability that allowed hackers to penetrate the Commerce Department, the company disclosed in an investor filing this week. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got to get some transparency out of the government because of this? I mean, Trump is already talking about declassifying everything. Well, he's talking about declassifying everything. I would counter with everything that won't get somebody directly killed. But that's between the voters and the president. But, I mean, I've got this feeling that some of these government agents are looking up and saying, what do they know? What are they going to find out? Are they going to find out that some business leaders have big financial ties and financial interests in the government? What are they going to find out? And we need to find out. Maybe this will be an incentive to declassify a bunch of shit. Probably not. The government doesn't like transparency, but that seems to be the big thing is, what do they know? What do they know and when are they going to tell people? And honestly, I think it's a good thing that the government right now seems to be more afraid of the people than of the foreign entities. And I hope that's the case. I hope that that's what they're sitting up and worrying about is what the people are going to know. Because, I mean, if the people lose faith in their government, what is it that they said on V for Vendetta in the commercials? Because I've never seen the movie, but the government should be afraid of the people, not the other way around. I'm sure that's a paraphrase because I'm sure I got that wrong because I've never seen that movie. I'm sorry, Elaine. But that is what we have off of that. I got another tweet to share with you guys. I think this one also has some... No, this one doesn't have video. From Eric Topal. For the first time, all red USA, including Hawaii, for out-of-control COVID. So, everywhere in the country right now, according to this chart, is uncontrolled spread of the coronavirus. Everywhere, except for Hawaii. They're just trending poorly. You know, island nation, little immigration, complete lockdown. They're trending poorly. But everything else, uncontrolled spread. Everybody panic. Everybody, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. Shut it all down. Yeah, this is a bunch of bullshit. Greater than a 99% survival rate, but yeah, go ahead and fearmonger. You do you. Thank you, Oxford comma. Do I follow this person? No, I do now, because that's a good comment. I like that. Oxford comma, you just got followed right on the air, right live. But there's your fear porn for the day. All right, from KKOH, News Talk. I believe this is out of Ohio. Rand Paul, Swalwell a hypocrite, should quit Intel or be removed. Representative Eric Swalwell should resign from the House Intelligence Committee, but if he's not willing to do that, he should be removed over his connections with suspected Chinese spy Christine Fang, Senator Rand Paul said on Wednesday. I think to be careful and to be cautious, he should resign from the Intelligence Committee, the Kentucky Republican said on Fox News' America's Newsroom about Swalwell. He also accused the California Democrat of hypocrisy. This is the guy that was hurling stones and accusations, all kinds of false accusations at President Trump, said Paul. He's controlled by spies. He was the most over-the-top critic of President Trump on Russia collusion. The hypocrisy is appalling, and he really should be red-faced and ashamed of himself. Yeah, a California Democrat that feels shame. Let's ask Katie Hill about that. And really, you probably ought to just resign from Congress. Paul, also speaking before the Senate's hearing on election integrity, said that there remains much to be investigated and fixed in Georgia before the January runoff races that could determine the control of the Senate. Well, let's see. Hunter Biden is under investigation. Joe Biden is in the position to fire the special prosecutor. Eric Swalwell just got popped for, allegedly, because innocent until proven guilty, fucking a spy. The declassified notes implicated Hillary Clinton as lying about the Russia collusion in order to keep the eyes off her email server. Yeah, you should be focusing on Georgia because, and your voters should know that too, because all of this is going on within the Democratic Party, which is hoping and praying to get these 2 seats. And yes, Eric Swalwell should resign. He should be gone after that one. That would end, if that, once again, reverse the parties. If that was a Republican that did that, we would never hear the end of it. That person would be forced off of his committee assignments. And if he did make it to the next election, the voters would throw his ass out to the curb. But, because he's a California Democrat, who cares? Glass of water with a D on it. All right, let's see. I got another tweet, a couple more news stories. Then we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate and head on out of here. All right, this one comes from our lovely Coconut Mommy. And this is some video, so let's have a listen to that.
And rights that are enshrined in our Constitution, guaranteed to every single American, among which are our right to privacy and protection of our civil liberties. Now, the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution very specifically prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures without a warrant based on probable cause. But over the last 2 decades, in part because of information revealed by Edward Snowden, we now know that there have been ongoing breaches of our civil liberties through programs that were instituted through the Patriot Act and the FISA Amendments Act, which basically allowed agencies within our government to conduct mass illegal surveillance on Americans without a warrant or probable cause. For example, Section 215 of the Patriot Act has been used for years by the NSA to collect domestic phone records of millions of law-abiding Americans, again, without any kind of probable cause. FISA Amendments Act did something similar, but it allowed for mass collection of our emails. The intelligence community has not been transparent or honest with the American people or even Congress about what they've been doing. Some of you may know when James Clapper, who was the former director of national intelligence, was asked by the U.S. Senate in an open hearing about whether or not the government was conducting this mass surveillance, this mass collection of information on everyday Americans, he lied under oath and said no. So to address these issues, my friend and colleague Congressman Tom Massey and I introduced legislation called the Protect Our Civil Liberties Act.
All right, and we're going to read a little bit more about the Protect Our Civil Liberties Act in the next article there, but, I like to look at Tulsi. I'm sure that you guys do too. I'll let my man this show. I'm not going to lie about it. But yeah, on that's going to be huge. Also, pro tip, you cannot breathe coffee, no matter how hard you try. So I apologize for having to cut the mic there and let the coffee back up out of my lungs. Let's see what the Hill has to say. Massey, Gabbard team up on a bill to repeal the Patriot Act. From Justine Coleman. Representatives Thomas Massey and Tulsi Gabbard have teamed up to introduce a bill designed to repeal the Patriot Act. The two House members are proposing bipartisan legislation designed to limit government surveillance of people without warrants and probable cause. The Protect Our Civil Liberties Act would repeal both the Patriot Act and the FISA Amendments Act that permitted government agencies to collect mass telephone and email data. Gabbard and Massey argue that the surveillance violates Americans' right to privacy and their civil liberties. In a video announcement on Wednesday, Gabbard said the bill would make sure that Congress re-examines how best to strike this balance of protecting our national security interests while also ensuring that the constitutional rights of every American is preserved. Protection of our civil liberties is essential, she later said. Join us in making sure that our constitutional rights are upheld. The Hawaii Democrat also called out the intelligence community, saying it has not been transparent or honest with the American people or even Congress about what they have been doing. Man, oh man, if we could just get Tulsi to pay this much attention to the Second Amendment and then go take an economics class, we might have the perfect representative. Right there. But of course, she is a raging socialist and a raging gun grabber. But hey, broken clock. And I'll give credit where credit. I am a balls and strikes person. If she's going to do something good like that, then absolutely. And then Thomas Massey went out and retweeted this. But J. Edgar, they want to repeal the Patriot Act. That must mean that they're not patriotic. Oh no, it's patriotic to want to do what the Patriot Act says. That's why they call it the Patriot Act. No. It was funny language on there, set up to make sure that you accept it without question. All right, last one here. Then we'll do a couple things I like and a thing that I hate. And head on out of here. All right, from the Daily Wire, Mike Rowe makes case for opposing student loan forgiveness. I have promised you guys a solo video on this. I have not done it yet. But I want to, because I've actually got a plan for student loan. Well, the student loan crisis is not forgiveness, but I've got a plan to actually do this and do it right. Make sure that the loan sharks get a slap, and yet we can still come back and get this all put behind us at this point. And I'm sure that no college would go for it if I ever did wind up ascending myself to the Oval Office. But I could fix this in a couple of years if everybody that was involved played ball. But let's see what Mike Rowe has to say. Conservative icon Mike Rowe explained in social media posts this week why he does not support student loan forgiveness, noting that it is profoundly unfair to those who worked hard and paid off their debts, and that's why it is welfare for the wealthy. In writing the post, Rowe highlighted a National Review article on the subject that noted that Democrats have become the party of the moneyed urban and suburban professionals. And on the matter of college loans, progressives are happy to see the rich get richer, as Americans of more modest means subsidize relatively high-income Democratic households. Lots of people on this page have asked me to comment on the various proposals to forgive hundreds of billion dollars in student debt, Rowe wrote. Many, it seems, suspect that I'll be supportive of these efforts since I've written at length about the outrageous rise of college tuition and the scandalous ways in which hundreds of thousands of students have been conned into borrowing ridiculous sums of money to purchase degrees that never lead to an actual job. Well, for the record, I do not support student loan forgiveness. My reasons are not secret, Rowe continued. I've written at length on this page about the fundamental unfairness of doing such a thing, especially to the millions of Americans who have paid their college debts and sacrificed so much to do so. I've also said that forgiving student debt would send a terrible message to the very same universities that already gouge their customers with sky-high tuition that will never come back to earth if we bail out those who borrowed more than they could repay. And he's absolutely right. There is a solution. I believe that I have it. I'm going to do this out in solo video form, so you guys can go check that out. Spoilers, it's going to hurt the banks that went out and did this. But yeah, like I said, this will probably get us out of a lot of this. So good on Mike. Absolutely good on Mike. All right. And with that, we're done with the news here. We're going to do two things I like and a thing that I hate and head on out of here because I'm running way behind and I got to get to work. All right. Thing that I like number one today. Friend of the show, Quest Fanning, who many of you know was on 2 episodes ago when we talked about the Great Reset on Across the Board, bailed me out at the last minute on Ed's World once and then actually got a good, long, prepared week on Ed's World another time. He's been a great friend to me. He always retweets out the Periscope link for this. And 41 years ago today, he was born. So happy birthday, Quest Fanning. Thanks for all that you do for the program and all you do for the Freedom Scoop Network and everything you've done to help us get this far. Thank you very much and happy birthday. All right, thing that I like number 2. Not because I have any particular like for the censorship of speech. I just think this is fucking hilarious, and this is going to collapse Twitch faster than anything else in the world. Even more than they're already collapsing. Twitch bans simp. Easy headline. Twitch will no longer allow streamers and commenters to go around calling one another simps. The term, a recent favorite from the Twitch community that nominally refers to men who seem desperate for women's attention, will be banned when used as an insult under Twitch's upcoming revamp of its harassment policy. Incel and virgin will be banned as insults as well. Twitch COO Sarah Clemens said during a live stream town hall this afternoon. Boy, if I want to think of a way to eliminate all of your user base at this point, because what do you do when you game? You trash talk. And what do these people that simp need to do? I'm probably going to get cut off for this, but what is it that they need to do? They need to be called out on it. You know why? So they can modify their behavior. So now, not only because, remember, Twitch has also got something else in the terms of service that's coming up about giving females unwanted amounts of attention. And I said, your platform is built on simps. Your platform is built on simps and sluts. That's why Amaranth was let back onto the platform. After she showed her vajay full open on Twitch, they let her back on. Your platform is built on this, and people are throwing biddies left and right. Because, oh look, hot girl over on Twitch. Are you sure you want to do this? And upend your entire business model. I mean, do you? I'm going to continue to stay on here and talk about what's going on in the news for as long as I'm still allowed on the platform. And I know my day is coming from the Amazon-owned company as well. But and the worst part is, and this has also been pointed out because a lot of people went through and read the terms of service after they changed. They talk about incel, virgin, and simp. But they never said a word about any of the racial slurs that are going around there. Now, of course, that would be on moderation for the individual channel to do. Just like the rest of this should be, by the way. The rest of this should be moderated by the user's channel. Not by Twitch from the top down. If you got a decent moderator, and you don't want this kind of speech to go on, then your decent moderator can do the job better than Twitch can. Now, my moderators don't have to worry about much of that because for the most part it's ban the robots, which my robot does that already, and just make sure that nobody's making any personal attacks or doxing anyone. Other than that, you can pretty much get away with murder in my chat. Well, not anymore, but yeah, that's coming off of Twitch here. And you know what? I hate Twitch. I go on there because it's a convenient backup, and I'm going to stand on the bow of that sinking ship and fiddle the whole fucking way down and watch them burn. All right, now let's do a thing that I hate. From the Washington Post. Mar-a-Lago neighbors to Trump. Spend your post-presidency elsewhere. From Manuel, Roig Francia, and Carol Day Laning. Next door neighbors of Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's private club in Palm Beach, Florida, that he has called his winter White House, have a message for the outgoing commander-in-chief. We don't want you to be our neighbor. That message was formally delivered Tuesday morning in a demand letter delivered to the town of Palm Beach and also addressed to the U.S. Secret Service, asserting that Trump lost his legal right to live at Mar-a-Lago because of an agreement he signed in the early 1990s when he converted the storied estate from his private residence to a private club. The legal maneuver could, at long last, force Palm Beach to publicly address whether Trump can make Mar-a-Lago his legal residence and home, as he has been expected to do when he becomes an ex-president after the swearing-in of Joe Biden on January 20th. How much do you want to bet the City Council of Palm Beach crumbles when they start to see how much they can change the property tax? When they reclassify this as a private residence? And how many MAGA people are going to want to go down there? And what do you remind me again, do you have a state sales tax? I don't remember if you do or not down in Florida. I thought you did. But even still, how much money is going to be flowing through the area with what's the word I want to use? The migration of MAGA people that want to come from all around the country and go hang out at Mar-a-Lago because Trump is there. It's a religion to these people, and it will be a religious migration. Palm Beach is going to look at that. They're going to look at the money that gets spent in their businesses, the property tax change, the sales tax if they have one in the city or even in the state, the income tax for all the extra personnel that are going to have to staff Mar-a-Lago once the religious convoy comes in. They're going to look at that and say, yeah, hey, you know what, residents, we're sorry, but we're going to have to fold on this because we're going to make a buttfuck load of money off of this. But, of course, the people have to people. And the Democrat Party really is getting to be the party of the rich billionaires, so the rich people that get the chance to live around Mar-a-Lago are going to come out and they're going to say, well, we want Biden. We don't want Trump here. Don't live here, even though you own this property. I would bet you that Palm Beach folds like cheap origami. But the fact of the matter is that a city telling a private resident that owns property, private property, in your city that you can't live there, that's the thing that I hate. And there's a possibility that they can come out and say, yeah, you know what, you signed this agreement, we can't do this anymore. I don't think they're going to do it, but they might. But that's the thing that I hate for today. So we are going to head on out of here. We will be back here later on tonight to do some gaming stream. And if you can't make it there, there's some other things that are going on the Freedom Scoop Media Group tonight. So hopefully you'll come down and hang out with at least one of us here. The Daily Ignoramus is moving to nights right now, while Stephen is staying with his mom. So you can go check that out. That's going to be at 8 p.m. Central. Probably about the same time I'm going live too, so make your choice. Otherwise, the Generational Gap is also doing a movie night tonight. You can go and hang out with them as well. They're going to be doing that over a private Zoom call. So go and hang out with them as well. That could be a fun time too. I hope you'll come and stay with me. I really do. But I know that you got options. So a lot of stuff is going on. And I want to make sure that that my friends and the people that have contributed to the Freedom Scoop Media Group also get some recognition that they so much well deserve as well. So hopefully one of us will see you guys tonight. Otherwise, I will be back here tomorrow to read the names and thank the people who chatted in the live chat throughout the week and come and hang out with you guys some more. See some more news, see some more crazy shit that's happening in the news. So, hope to see you there. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.